Salutations, my friends. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Factions of Freedom. I'm your host, Noisera, Freedom Faction, whichever one you prefer, and I have titled this episode Hollywicked, PedoWood, and Babylon Americorp, because we're going to be looking at all kinds of chaotic things taking place, as always. You know, we got this Harvey Weinstein stuff going on. We're still reeling from all of the unnatural disasters that have taken place in Texas and in Florida, Puerto Rico, the Bahamas, the Dominican Republic, and we will get into what's going on in California as well. So there's a lot of different things happening, and I want to start out this episode by saying, you know, to the international audience, you guys are going to be hearing us kind of going through a little bit of craziness, no doubt. I would say we're going through our own type of judgment. We're going through our own paradigm shift, our own challenge, our own trials. You see, there's a lot of different things that are going to come from what comes after this, and we're trying to keep an eye on the behind the scenes and what's really taking place, so we can see what they're really trying to do. You know, I mean, like I said, with the martial law, the military being active in the restoration, you know, and all kinds of other things. To the foreign people, you guys are going to hear some crazy stuff about what's going on here in America. And to the people in California, you guys have my prayers. Really, like the entire country has my prayers right now. Everywhere needs prayer, especially those in California. I had my numbers mixed up whenever we were looking at the fires, and we'll get into that as well. But like I said, to the followers that are in California, you guys have my prayers. Texas, you know, you guys are still dealing with things there as well. You guys have our prayers, as well as Florida. It's crazy. It is crazy, all the things that we see taking place, and this is only 1 year. But I wanted to start off the episode by saying that you guys have our prayers, you have our love, and I hope it means something to you. As you can tell, this has been a crazy week. It's not. I don't even know if we can call these things distractions or developments at this point, but we are going through tribulations. No, nothing I can say other than that. But to get this episode started, I'd like to say make sure you guys are checking out the website, factionsoffreedom.jimdo.com. We actually added a new feature to where you could go and download the Pedogate information, the timeline, on the website. I'll put the link and the article in there so you guys can go check that out. So make sure you're checking out the website, all kinds of developments. And with that being said, let's jump right into it. So like I said, there's been all kinds of different developments on all kinds of different fronts. You know, we have anti-vaccination mothers not wanting to vaccinate their child and going to jail for it. You know, the sonic weapons that are being used on U.S. officials, some supplies getting to Puerto Rico, all the crazy curiosities surrounding this Las Vegas shooting, and we'll get into that as well. But we have to tackle this wickedness that's in Hollywood, this plague. I'm glad mainstream media is finally catching up to what's been happening. You know, the wickedness that is in Hollywood, it stems deep. They have a lot of tentacles in people's lives and a lot of different influences all over the place. So Harvey Weinstein, hearing about this character, this guy, he's the tip of the iceberg. We're just now here. They're offering him up. We're just now hearing, you know, about the confirmed actions that go on in Hollywood. We know what the casting couch is. We know we know how Hollywood works. We also know the dark things that go on in the entertainment industry as well, you see. So before I get started in all this, I kind of want to start off by saying, you know, without a doubt, America is in the grips of an epileptic seizure with freedom right now. And you got to ask the question whether or not we're convulsing, if we're on our deathbed, you know, if this is what the country looks like after we've been infiltrated, you know, and if we're talking about America being brung down or brought down, you know, are we witnessing the end of America? You know, remember the days when you could showcase like the beauty of America, the wild, wild west, you know, open, freedom, beautiful girls, you know, meat. Nowadays, everybody's so woke and so hip to things that we don't really ever get to take the time to appreciate anything. We really don't get to take the time to appreciate, individual conversation, what's really happening in the country, the fact that we have this technology, the fact that we have each other, so many different things going on in the world. And yes, we want to be the first ones to know this is what technology does. It exposes us to all these things that are happening instantly. But somewhere along the lines, we've lost that beauty. We've somehow made the world ugly and technology beautiful. It's crazy. Remember when we used to take pride where we come from? Nowadays, everybody has to know exactly what nationality they are and the amount of genetics it took and what percentage and things like that. And that's important. Yeah, but then, it becomes like a pick and choose of which part of your lineage you want to be instead of just existing and continuing the lineage. Remember when we weren't triggered by everything that the media tells us to be triggered by? You see, and this is what I'm saying. I'm like, our generation, I believe it's ours, that our generation is the one that isn't afforded the luxury of laziness. And though it might seem like we actually have all these tools, right? Some of them, and I've talked about this before. They're developing or giving us ADD, active distracted disease, where we just have to be distracted on something. We have to be engaged. We have to be plugged in. And there's stats to go with that as well. Most Americans spend 10 hours a day plugged into something. And everything that most people plugged into and listen to, the major news in America, is owned by 6 corporations. No kidding. So you're being fed an agenda. And when we're talking about these actors in Hollywicked and all these things that they do, we have to understand that this is part of a plan, part of an agenda. You see, we're not afforded the lap of luxury. This is why they're trying to distract us, because they know that we can affect change. They know that we can do something, that we don't want to pay attention to NBC or CNBC or MSNBC or ESPN or A&E, the Disney Channel, FX, Fox Sports. This is why they have, the NFL trying to take a knee to cause some kind of controversy. You got the CNN, HBO, all kinds of different places that are trying to tell you what to think. Don't even get me started on BET and MTV. Hollywood is dying. MTV has wrecked generations, and the radio sucks everywhere. And if you paid attention to, some of the work that we're doing, you've probably heard me rant about how this is the time for us to step up and take the reins to create something with this collapse of Hollywood, this implosion of Hollywood. We need to create conscious culture. Where's the TV show that showcases what it's like to actually want to try to be awake and aware to all these things that are going on, and what it means to be in a society that doesn't foster that kind of mindset? You see, that's why this is why they're trying to indoctrinate us into a cult of confusion and insanity. This is that fake, synthetic culture forced onto us by mainstream media and the entertainment, thought-controlled, politically incorrect industry known as Hollywood. This Harvey Weinstein situation, because we all knew what this was. We all knew. Everyone knew. You don't get to Hollywood without being on your knees somewhere. You don't get to Hollywood without going to your back somewhere. Okay? So give me a bit. I'll get into Hollywood. You know what? Let's just get into it right now. This is that culture. Why are we letting people who literally read from teleprompters, who read other people's words, tell us what to do and what to think and how to feel and how to act when they influence us? This is why I don't necessarily pay attention to the media, Hollywood, Hollywicked, and all the things that they're involved in. But I will admit, I obviously have to pay attention to a degree. I'm no saint. I'm human. But I'm saying I don't know who Harvey Weinstein was until this information started coming out. This guy, he gives us a window into all that stuff that's going on. Why is pedophilia a big thing? Why is child sex trafficking a huge thing in Hollywood? Because that's how it works. These people, they procure children. They participate in satanic ritual abuse. They molest people. There's a gay mafia, a homosexual mafia that is out there indoctrinating people. procreating, so to speak, because you can't have children of their own because they're gay. They have to molest others. And I know this sounds wicked and I know this sounds crazy, but this is how this works. It's part of a cult. This is how these people act. This is some real eyes wide shut type of stuff. You see, right here, Corey Feldman. We'll play the clip of him talking about how he was surrounded as a child by pedophiles. But on his Twitter, October 12th, he said, the Harvey Weinstein situation. I have been hounded by media for a statement in regards to the recent controversy surrounding the studio head. However, for the record, I would like to say no, Harvey Weinstein was not the man who molested me or my former partner or my former acting partner. Obviously, pedos operate in many of the same ways, and the blame and the shame is the same game. But just because someone may be a womanizer and a pig doesn't mean they like having sex with children. That said, I have never met Harvey in my life because my career was already being shut down by the powers that be before. So you see that there are already higher powers than Harvey shutting Corey Feldman down. Could these be the same forces shutting down Harvey? Why were they offering up Harvey? You see, we've also got James Vanderbeek talking about, I've had my ass grabbed by older, powerful men. I've had them corner me in inappropriate sexual conversations when I was much younger. You've also got Rose McGowan saying Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, Blue Origin, and the Washington Post, saying that I told the head of your studio that Harvey Weinstein raped me. Over and over I said it. He said it hadn't been proven. I said I was the proof. And she says again, I am Jeff Bezos. I am calling on you to stop funding rapists, alleged pedos, and sexual harassers. I love Amazon, but there is rot in Hollywood. And I would definitely agree with you, Miss McGowan. I would definitely agree with you because that's what we're talking about. These people, they participate in debauchery. That's how they get more power. Pedophiles, it's not for pleasure. These people do it for power. Not only are they able to compromise people while doing that, they also do it for power. It's a whole cult. Let's listen to Corey Feldman talk about how he was surrounded by pedophiles in Hollywood.
What childhood? I don't know what that means.
A lost childhood and a loss of innocence. He blames the adults, not just those looking to profit from charming children, but also some with far more sinister motives.
I can tell you that the number one problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia. That's the biggest problem for children in this industry.
The casting couch even applies to children.
Oh, yeah. Not in the same way. It's all done under the radar.
Nobody talks about pedophilia.
It's the big secret.
And it's widespread?
Oh, yeah. I was surrounded by them when I was 14 years old. Surrounded. Literally. Didn't even know it. It wasn't until I was old enough to realize what they were and what they wanted and what they were about and the types of people that were surrounding me till I went, oh my God, they were everywhere like vultures.
Vultures who Feldman says abused him and his best friend.
What childhood?
Crazy. At 14, knowing that you're being surrounded by predators. These are the same type of predators that do that drag queen story time. That go out there to tell you that it's okay, accept us. That's what I'm saying. This is the big secret. This is what they do. You see, that's what the casting couch is. That's how 99% of the acting females in there, that's how they get their breaks, is through sex. We're well aware of that. The darker aspects to this is that it is, yes, young boys, young girls, children, child trafficking. They're conducting these types of things. Here, let's see if we can pull up this clip of, I think it's Judge Deneen talking about how there is indeed child sex trafficking rampant. Hollywood is being infested with child sex trafficking.
Actors, the ones who need to read other people's words for a living and then convince themselves that they have the moral turpitude to pontificate to the rest of us on how we should act, try to tell us how to be. And by the way, it's not over yet, folks. There's more coming. It's not just adult women. It's human trafficking. It's child sex trafficking. It's real pedophilia in a town where there are no rules, where the truth is stranger than fiction, and where fiction is based on reality. It is time for the Department of Justice to get their act in gear, start a federal criminal investigation into Harvey Weinstein, his ongoing criminal activity that no doubt has crossed state lines and continents. And that's my open. Tell me what you think. Actors.
I think it's a pretty powerful open. I don't really necessarily endorse Fox, but I think it's good that they're finally catching up to this PedoGate stuff, to this Pizzagate stuff, to the child sex trafficking, because this is very important. When we're talking about organized pedophilia, you have to ask yourself, well, why are they offering up Harvey right now? Why is this a big deal? You see, it's because not only was the PedoGate stuff reaching a point, but this is a sacrifice. Like I said before with Corey Feldman, the powers that be were already working against him. Who's working against Harvey? Who did he anger way up the food chain? You see, they're satanic at the top of Hollywood. Like I said, they're not even doing it for the pleasure. They're the synagogue of Satan. These people worshiping devil. They're the Khazarian Jews, the fake Jews, the Luciferians, the occultists. They do this for power. We talked about this with Ben Bradley and Sally Quinn. You know, the DC gatekeepers that were talking about how they practice occult spells on their adversaries. This is what they do. They partake in wickedness. They partake in these types of things. You see, this is, like I said before, this is the casting couch. If they don't pass up with sex, it's their life, or they're not even listed or acknowledged. You got to think. Let's break this down real quick. While we're talking about human trafficking, organized pedophilia, right? Every 40 seconds, every 40 seconds, a child goes missing in the United States. More than 800,000 children go missing each year. Why is PedoGate so important? Because it shows that indeed higher levels of the elite are conducting human trafficking and engaging in pedophilia. You see, the call boys that visited D.C., the White House, things of that nature. And while this whole Las Vegas shooting chaos was taking place, NBC calmly let out the fact that the State Department, that Hillary Clinton at the time of being at the State Department, covered up pedophilia. We've also heard that the dark web has hosted the site Child's Play for a year, actually encouraging people to go out and conduct sexual acts with children. And at the same time, we had an operation cross country where they were able to basically clean some streets in New Orleans and pick up some of the pedophiles, some of the traffickers. I mean, look at Seattle. Seattle Mayor Ed Murray had to step down because of his 5th allegation of child molestation. Think about that. These are the people in power. This is what they do. You see, right here. This is put up September 26th. Hillary Clinton covered up elite pedophile ring at State Department, according to NBC News report. Let's see if we can get that ready for you guys.
Out of Washington, some serious allegations this morning facing the State Department.
That's right. According to internal State Department memos, the agency might have called off or intervened in investigation into possibly illegal and inappropriate behavior within its ranks, allegedly to protect jobs and avoid scandals. This concerns the time that Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. We want to get right to NBC's chief White House correspondent, Chuck Todd, with the latest. Chuck, good morning to you.
Good morning, Savannah. You know, there's an old saying in Washington that the cover-up is worse than the crime. But in this case, both parts of it are disturbing. Allegations of prostitution and pedophilia, and allegations that those crimes were somehow covered up or not looked into. So the State Department this morning is having to respond to those claims and those investigations of misconduct by State Department officials, including by an ambassador and security agents attached to then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. And the allegations are that these investigations were whitewashed, quashed altogether, and that those orders
quashed altogether, attached to Hillary Clinton. And we'll play Kathy O'Brien after this, where she talks about just being involved with Hillary and Bill Clinton, trafficking drugs and doing these types of things. This is what we're talking about with Hollywicked. This is PedoWood. These people not only do they do this devil worship because Hillary Clinton admitted to it, practicing voodoo in her book, What Happened, and being in Haiti, practicing voodoo down there. You know, there's a lot of different correlations with Hillary, witchcraft, wickedness, and all kinds of other things. This is what they do. This is the window, as I said, into the things they do, into the creepiness that these people really are. They enjoy being filthy pieces of garbage. Like they intentionally debase themselves, like degrading others. Like that's what they want. Like kidnapping, raping, and killing children to these sick, to these satanic, these people. It's the highest level of evil that they could commit. That's what they're doing. They're trying to seek power. They want more. They want a position. And I'm not trying to sound scary, but how many more revelations are going to come out to where we actually start looking at the wickedness behind these people? You see, let's play this clip of Kathy O'Brien talking about being with Bill and Hillary Clinton.
I delivered it to Bill Clinton, and he cut out 2 lines of the coke, and he did inhale. That certainly wasn't the only time I saw Bill Clinton using cocaine. My sexual experience with Bill Clinton was extremely limited, in spite of the fact that I was a sex slave. It was my experience that Bill Clinton is bisexual, leaning far more towards a homosexual end. All I've ever seen him involved in was the homosexual activity, with very limited experience with him myself. Whereas my experience was much more prevalent with Hillary Clinton, because Hillary is also bisexual, leaning more towards a homosexual end, and it was she who accessed my sex programming to fulfill her perversions.
To fulfill her perversions. To do her types of things. This is Kathy O'Brien. I would definitely tell you guys, go check this woman out. Everything she says, it seems like it's on point. She's literally talking about how she's an MK Ultra slave to these people. This is what happens when you can kidnap people, when you can train them, when you can indoctrinate them. They will do whatever you want, no questions asked. As she said, Hillary Clinton was able to access her MK or her sex slave programming. That's why when we're talking about organized pedophilia, human trafficking, child sex trafficking, where do you think these kids go? How many kids, since I mentioned that statistic, that little factoid of every 40 seconds a child going missing, how many kids have gone missing since then? How many of them have been brought into Hollywood, brought into these politicians, to these elected officials? They want to take your kids, drain them of their light, of their life, and the things that are precious to them. They don't have a connection to humanity. They want to practice wickedry. They're literally demons that feed off of the goodness of man. If they can kidnap your children, think about it. You really have to think about this. Look at what they're doing with this story, this drag queen story time nonsense. If they can kidnap your child and ritualistically sacrifice them, that earns them more power with the devil. They're asking each other, who is more wicked? You see, this is I'll say this, and then we'll take a break. Okay, this is why they're trying to indoctrinate us into this cult of confusion and insanity. Like I told you, this is that synthetic culture that they want us to act like we're in. But it's fake, but it's all wicked. It's all evil. These people are not here to try to help us move forward into the next phase of what we consider society. If anything, they are the adversaries. They are trying to harvest us. They are trying to manipulate us. Hollywicked is like is literally sheep going to the slaughter. Beautiful young women, beautiful people going to Hollywood. You got to think about this. Beautiful women going to Hollywood. What's hot right now? This bondage stuff, right? Beautiful women go into Hollywood. They practice this bondage stuff with one of these procurers, one of these kidnappers, one of these people who are taking people. They practice this little bondage stuff 2-3 times a month. Whoop! Eventually that guy goes. He gave her an alias, kidnapped her. She's never to be seen or heard from again. Put into sex slavery. Put into human slavery. Or killed. Ritualized. The wickedness that is in Hollywood, the black magic, the satanic rituals that these people practice. It's not a joke. That's why we're talking about pedogate. It got to a literal point to where they had to give off somebody in Hollywood for us to chew on, because that many arrests were taking place. That many different things are happening. We're witnessing monumental shifts in culture, monumental shifts in consciousness, monumental shifts across the board. And that's why it's upon us to try to fill these voids, to see these things happening. I talked about this. I'll say this, and then we'll go on we'll take a break. I talked about this in one of the stories earlier this week. You know, the radio sucks everywhere. MTV has destroyed generations, and Hollywood is crumbling. This gives alternative media, the conscious culture. This gives us the perfect opportunity to implement something into this culture war that we've always been talking about. We need to create. We can see all these things unfolding in front of us, but we also have to build off of it, build with their ashes, so to speak. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about ashes, fire, California, craziness, all the things that come with post-weather modification, Agenda 21 types of stuff. But like I said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we be back, we'll be talking about all that and more. This is Freedom Faction, the Factions of Freedom. Stay tuned. And we are back. Like I said, talking about more culture. You know, this is why we're here. This is why we're here. This is why social media is here. We are here to fill the void of what wasn't here. We're here to be what is needed. This is why we don't want to pay attention to this fake synthetic culture that's not real, where it's just these jerks these soulless people that have no real meaning to them, no meat, no substance other than what they've picked up from their actors, from their coaches. This is why we, as real people who have been in the wake of all this chaos, the wake of everything that they have made, we need to spit the real. We need to tell them what the real is, that they can't see. They have this future designed for us that doesn't necessarily benefit us. We have our own concept of answers, and this is why we need to start pushing forward and building that. But we got to start having these conversations. You see what I'm saying? And the minute that we have, and that's where we're at, we really are. It might not seem like it, but there are monumental shifts happening. We are making change. Change is being made, and we are the agents of it. But we need to start having deeper conversations about where we're going. And this is why this might seem like a shameless plug, but this is why I tell you guys, I really do need your support to keep moving forward. This is only one aspect. We're season 5, year 3 of what we're trying to do. The more support that we have, the more financial support that we have, the more people we can hire, basically, the more things we can do, the more I can expand. I can start to have daily broadcasts. I might be able to hire someone to post for us, and then another person to write for us, to where we can start putting out our own content and literally get a whole network. Like, I have other projects that I'm trying to do as well, and this is not the show to plug it, but like I said, guys, a lot of different things going on, and it's upon us to make that change. So if you guys want to support us, the links will be in the description bar below, but we got to get back in the show. So we've been talking about all things crazy. Like I said, coming off of the ashes, building something with the fallout. This California situation, and as I said before at the start of the show, you guys have my prayers. All of America has my prayers right now. But this California situation is hyper sketchy. I thought at first it was only 6 fires. I had my information wrong. It was 66 fires. 66 fires. Now, call me crazy. Call me conspiratorial. But I don't think that's natural. And what you're seeing right now, and I'll describe this for the audio viewers, what you're seeing right now is footage of some kind of debris, something fall into the sky October 10th. You see. And a lot of footage has actually come out showing weird lights, people talking about feeling charged. Really weird things are surrounding what's happening in California. That's what we're talking about with the ashes. But people, and this is one of the questions I commonly get, people ask, oh, well, what's the benefit? What benefits the government from controlling the weather? What can they do from controlling the weather, freedom? Doesn't make any sense. And I'm saying, well, I've actually lived in a situation to where half of our town burned down. I'm not saying it's deliberate, but I'm saying a few years later, it was entirely reindustrialized. They were able to push back. They were able to make more houses, basically expand the town. They're clearing space, deforestation. Now, 66 fires, that's intense, if you ask me. I don't know what you would be doing, or what 66 fires simultaneously could be doing, and where they were located in so many different counties too, from Sonoma to Orange County to Santa Rosa. You see, let's see if we can take a look at some of these. Look at that. It is literally melted into the ground. Unless that's Photoshop, I don't know what to tell you. Look at that. Explain that to me. The firefighters are exhausted. They only slept like an hour. They're only sleeping an hour. They're having to battle a raging fire. They're no longer they're literally just evacuating people. You see, it's wild what has happened in there. Look, one of the comments says it's really dry here in the Central Valley. Not a lot of rainfall, but the dry air, dry stuff on the ground. All it takes is a spark and some wind, and that causes a lot of damage, my friend. Same applies for North Cali. This is the exact same thing that happened on 9/11. Read where did the tower go. And this is something I kind of want to get into while we're here. You know, direct energy weapons, weather modification, and geoengineering. What comes after? They can industrialize off of the ashes, as I literally let in this segment saying, building off of the heaps. I mean, with what we saw in Texas with Hurricane Harvey, you know, look at how much is going on there. $700 billion in mortgage damage alone. But recently, I think it was I'm not sure if it was 3.8 or what. Let's see, got it right here. 37 billion in disaster aid. The House just passed it. So this is the socioeconomic reformation. This is what I keep trying to go on and on about. This is Agenda 21. They need to destroy the exterior world. They need to entirely reshape and reformat, change what we know of society, of the nation too, change how we approach everything. They can have control. This is a part of Agenda 21. This is the post-weather modification. Look at the devastation that caused. How many jobs is that going to create? How much debt is this going to put us into? You see. And this is from Connecting Consciousness. We're going to try to have him on the show. And he says, Santa Rosa, California. What type of forest fires leave trees intact but vaporize homes without a trace? Appliances, granite countertops, toilets, textiles, stonework, etc. completely vanished? Firefighters reported, quote, it's like we've been nuked. Never seen anything like it. On the other hand, military and intelligence agencies recently announced publicly that they have been testing directed energy weapons, DEWs, mounted to aircrafts. Virtually no structures left at all. Cars were melted. Brick foundations dissipated. How does a forest fire cause this without the trees themselves burning down? Look at that. Melted into the ground. But how is the ground fine? In these fires, look at the devastation. And now they're preparing for an earthquake. This is what we have to look at. The United Nations has a plan for America. They have an incremental plan on pushing us more inwards into the city, inwards into the lands, inwards into this biosphere program. This is a simulated reserve and corridor system to protect biodiversity as mandated by the Convention on Biological Diversity, the Wildlands Project, UN and US Man and Biosphere Program, and various UN US Heritage Programs, and NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. This is what they're all trying to do. As I said before, and we'll get into this, let's see if we can touch on this right now. With Dominica, with Puerto Rico, with all of these places, you know, Houston, we covered this in the Collapsing the Old World Order episode with things like the Georgia Guidestones, you know, and the weather modification, what went on with Texas, Florida. You know, in Texas they had the Arkema Texas plant, the ExxonMobil STP nuclear site, and the chemical spill in the port. They also started spraying nailed, the same chemical that they sprayed in Florida to combat the genetically modified mosquitoes from Zika. They are now spraying that in Texas. The Air Force announced it. You guys can go back and listen to that episode. The information is there. What we're looking at is how they are taking control of the situation. They are creating all of this chaos, and this is why we see such a swift military response. I know a lot of people don't understand why I post the military equipment being transferred, but it's for this exact reason. We need to know what is happening. It's better to get on the ground footage, and as ironically enough, you're seeing drone footage, but get on the ground footage of what's happening with the people. This is how we were able to talk about that story of people being smuggled out of the Virgin Islands, how they were commandeering boats and how they were saying, nope, you can't rescue, it's military only. This is the clearing space. This is making places uninhabitable. This is allowing them to have that biodiversity to where humans, you can't go back there. And they'll wait it out. Just like in Venezuela, where they were literally allowing people or giving people food. The military was giving people food. They'll wait it out because the military will keep getting supplies. The people won't. This is why whenever we had Billy Carson on, I was like, that's genius. That is awesome. You're skipping all of that nonsense and going directly to another supplier. You're able to load up a plane and get it to the people. That's awesome. I can respect that because we're seeing what happens with all this other stuff. I mean, what's going on in Puerto Rico? It's not reaching. It's bad. I'm not saying it's reaching a crisis, but I'm not there. It is getting bad though. Doctors in Puerto Rico are practicing medicine in post-apocalyptic conditions.
Empty. We asked the ship's mission commander why.
I know that we have capacity. I know that we have the capability to help. What the situation on the ground is, that's not in my lane to make a decision.
Which patients are lucky enough to come here, that's decided by Puerto Rico's Department of Health. We went to their boss, the governor.
At the end of the day, there are patients that need help with a ship and empty beds. Where's that disconnect and what are we doing about it?
The disconnect or the apparent disconnect was in the communication flow.
Hospitals we talked to told us they don't know how to send their patients to the comfort. The governor acknowledged the system, the communication must get better. The count now, 33 of the 250 beds on the comfort have patients as generators at hospitals fail and vital medical supplies run short.
It seems like there's a lack of communication.
Many of these beds are empty.
That does not make sense to me. It really does not make sense to me. They can't get people, and this is what's crazy. They can't get people onto the comfort, the ship that's stationed outside in the water, but they can get heavily armed masked mercenaries bearing no insignias or name tags on the ground. They can't get people onto the ship to take care of them, but they can send soldiers out there to patrol and say, you know what? We're watching you guys. No, you don't get to know our name. Just know that we're here to help, or at least that's what they'll tell you. You see, let's actually look at this article. It's from World Truth TV. I put it up October 17th. It says Puerto Rico streets crawl with heavily armed masked mercenaries bearing no insignia or name tags. It says, though Puerto Rican law prohibits ownership and bearing of most long guns and especially semi-automatic weapons, the streets of the stricken U.S. colony now throng with mercenaries in tactical gear bearing such arms, their faces masked. They wear no insignia or name tag and won't say who they work for apart from vague statements in broken Spanish. Quote, we work with the government. It's a humanitarian mission. We're helping Puerto Rico. Rosa Mila Rodriguez, head of Puerto Rico's federal prosecutor's office, initially dismissed reports of the mercenaries. Then, after reporters from the Centro de Periodismo Investigativo, I'm sorry if I butchered that, pressed her and said she'd check it out. After Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans, Eric Prince's Blackwater mercenaries flooded the city again, turning it into an armed camp. After Brigadier General Gary Jones, commander of the Louisiana National Guard's Joint Task Force, announced, quote, this place looks like a little Somalia. We're going to go out and take this city back. This will be a combat operation to get this city under control. Eric Prince is now reportedly considering a Senate run as Trumpist's candidate in Wyoming. His sister, Betsy DeVos, has used millions for her husband's pyramid scheme fortunes to fund efforts to destroy public education and now serves as Trump's Secretary of Education. So what they're saying is there are armed militants on the streets of Puerto Rico just saying vague stuff, saying, you know what, we're here to help. We're helping Puerto Rico. We're with the government. That is beyond sketchy. And this is how it works. They're there to restore order. This is why I try to keep contact or a lock on what is happening, who's moving what, where. What does that look like? What does martial law look like? You see? Let's look at some of how these people are getting their food, how they're getting some supplies. You see? Because this is crazy. This is what's happening afterwards. This is the socioeconomic reformation, as I keep trying to go on about. And this is a video from Forbidden Knowledge, but this is how FEMA drops hurricane supplies to people in Puerto Rico. This is why we needed to figure out who was getting supplies to those people, because we're seeing a lot of different things take place with the influx of students going into Florida. Think about how much housing they're going to need, how much more medical health needs they're going to need. And look at that. Look at how they just chuck out the supplies. Wow, that is so crazy. That is so crazy. But the people are in need, and this is going to cause all of these poverty-stricken people to influx into the mainland. But this might overwhelm the mainlands as well. We're not really. Where's all this money coming from? You see, these are all logistics, all crazy things that are going to have to be answered, that are going to affect our economy, that are going to change how we, like I said, operate and what we think of as the future of America. This is the post-weather modification. This is the geoengineering I keep trying to harp about. Pun intended. Because we're not really looking at how this stuff. Right now, we're all in a state of shock. You know, they're throwing this at us, they're throwing that at us, they're making all kinds of different things crazy. They're not really giving us time to breathe. But that's the point, because this storm, it's what comes after. They don't want to have people. They don't want to have people independent. They don't want to have people who are self-sufficient, who are able to pull away from the system. They want people who are dependent on the beast. This is Babylon Americorp. This is how it works. They want their money. They want their money. They want their chattel. They want their bodies. This is what's the huge show in Puerto Rico? Really? What is it? Why is that a big deal? What is happening in California? Let's really go back to that. Now that we've addressed Puerto Rico, let's really look at some of this insanity in relation to California, because it doesn't make sense to me. People are devastated. And on top of that, I'll get into this hepatitis A outbreak, because that's important. When we're looking at all of this crazy stuff, this is the post-weather modification. All of those houses have to either be restored, or that land has to be just torn down, and they're going to do it over. Where are these people going to stay? We had somebody send us a video the other day. They were in Port Arthur, Texas. They said that it's basically a ghost town. There were people from FEMA around. The hotels were booked, but the parking lots were empty. What does that mean? FEMA has actually talked about being there for multiple years. This is the COG. This is what they're also doing. Puerto Rico is a more advanced, intense version of it all, because they're trying to maintain order immediately. This is why we see them activating the National Guard, activating different parts of the military to try to maintain order. This is the privatization of security, of order, if you ask me. This is the military-industrial complex. This is what happens afterwards. I cannot stress that enough. So let's look into some of these curiosities surrounding these California fires. 66 fires. That doesn't... Again, more of the tells. More of the tells. From Northern California, it just raged. It was crazy. But some of the curiosities that I have listed down here are, experts claim that the fire was lit by elite arsonists using atmospheric weapons. The fires which burned houses and cars to a crisp left trees and vineyards untouched. It's not natural. Like, look at that. Look at those trees right there. It's not natural. These are unnatural disasters. yes, they could have taken something simple for sure. And I hear people saying, oh, it was a migrant that started it. It was an arsonist that started it. It was a drunkie that started it. I'm sure, everybody has an answer. Listen to my answer. I think that they probably did start with one of these very simple fires, and then they strategically enhanced it. I really do. How could you possibly get 66 individually wide-spaced fires appearing instantly and growing rapidly with no natural weather causing them, with perfectly calm weather before, with sudden massive winds at the initiation of the fire, with blue sparks in the air, as we've played for you guys, and there's other clips on our page as well, where you can see objects coming down from the sky, blue lights going on, similar to what happened in Mexico. Now, this could be earthquakes and things of that nature happening, but what are these weather anomalies? People talking about heart palpitations, malfunctioning electronics because of that much electricity in the air. You see, if enough voltage is, I don't want to sound like a nerd because I probably will get the science wrong and I'll have a few people message me, but if they can basically light the gas and ignite the gas, boom, it carries out. Like I said, they no longer tried to save people. It was just evacuating them, get them out. There are pools that are still fine. How come the water didn't evaporate? There are fires inside of trees, but the shell of the tree is fine. There's way too many anomalies going on with these California fires for them to be natural. These are unnatural disasters to me. Really. And until, we actually have a more proper discussion or more evidence come out as to what this is. You see, when we have more information, people are talking about what this is, and we get people trying to really ask the questions and get past the nonsense, that's whenever we'll get to the meat of this, get to the truth of it, truth to it. A little bit of a mouth blurb right there. Let's take a look at this article right here. California fires were sparked intentionally using weather weapons. It's from your Newswire, so it's going to be conspiratorial and kind of awesome. They pointed out some of the same things that I pointed out. 66 fires spread out, growing rapidly, no natural weather, blue sparks, malfunctioning electronics, heart problems. Right here it says Jim Stone explains weather weapons work by using multiple transmitters to create a collision zone where differently phased EM waves cancel each other out and drop their electrical potential into the air, which is a semiconductor, where they cancel. This is the equivalent of biasing a transistor. I don't know all that. Okay, I don't know all that. I will not lie to you, my friends. I do not know all of that. Think about that though. Could you imagine having like a automatic defibrillator in your heart and having it have problems? Your heart beginning to have even more problems. The hair on the top of your arms beginning to lift up, or something weird, and then you hear a quick sound or a quick object hits the ground, something, a flash of light, and boom, a fire is ignited. You see. And these are very real things that I know it might sound fanciful, it might sound radical, and might not even sound real, but we don't understand the times that we're in. What can come after the weather modification, the post-weather modification is how they're able to clean up after it. FEMA, already there. The National Guard, already there. Small businesses trying to stay alive. Who will build up on the ashes of these things? Like I said, with Florida, the people are going to have the influx of migrants and students. Well, not really migrants. The influx of people, of Americans moving to Florida is going to, not temporarily, but it's going to affect their economy. How do you reindustrialize Puerto Rico? What's going to happen in Florida? What's going to happen in California? In wine country, in Sonoma? I mean, hopefully some of their vineyards weren't touched. But even then, they're practicing for this earthquake. You guys have my prayers right now. Our country is going right through it. I mean, just in Florida alone, you had 391 people that were without power. You had the EPA talking about toxic chemicals leaking as Irma hit Florida, a chemical cocktail, chaos. And now, with this chaos in California, let's take a look at this. They're talking about a hepatitis A outbreak. So not only do the people have to worry about literally their lives being burnt alive, but they have to worry about hepatitis, a state of emergency being declared by Governor Jerry Brown, because 18 people in the state have died due to this hepatitis A outbreak. This is the vaccine push agenda, as we also saw with Hurricane Harvey in Texas. The people who were freaking out, they ran to the FEMA shelters, and part of some of the requirements of some were to get vaccines. This is the same type of situation. They are literally spraying down the streets, spraying down the sidewalk with bleach to fight this. To fight hepatitis, because these diseases are spreading. It's a little gross. I will not lie. But this is what they're trying to do. Whether or not it's a scare, I'm not entirely sure. I think people need to keep their own health in check. But think about that. Whatever is spreading, because we know California is one of the most authoritarian states when it comes to this vaccine agenda. This is Americorp. This is PedoWood. You do what we say. Obey California. Obey the California standards. This is the real picture of America now. And that's what's crazy. That's what we consider America is California and its trendiness. What's understandable. You can go to jail for not pronouncing somebody the right way. We are literally legalizing insanity. Like I said before, this is that cult of confusion and of insanity. But while we're all hyped up in a frenzy, they're going to try to say, hey, you should go get your vaccine. All this craziness, you should go get your vaccine. Don't you know? Don't you know how many problems that's going to cause you? Hepatitis. Good Lord. I don't even know what to say. You see, but that's just showing you how sick America really has become a little bit. Like we really, and this isn't like a bash against California. Whenever I'm looking at Hollywood, I feel like Hollywood is its own entity, the same way Silicon Valley is as well. Hollywood is on some other stuff, man. With child trafficking, you got pedophiles up there. You got these Luciferians. You got this eyes wide shut society that's literally over there preying on children. Creating Miley Cyrus's and Justin Bieber's because they're like clones of one another. Making people more fake than they already are because they're dead inside. There's some dark stuff that goes on in California, no lie. I'm not over here saying this is wicked judgment. No, I'm saying this is all of ours. This is Babylon. We are going through our trials. We are burning right now. We're being put through the fire. Whether or not our metals are tested and whether or not we come through it properly, that's upon us. That's what I'm saying. What do we do afterwards? But we're not done. When we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna be talking about the coming civil destabilization. Things like George Soros, literally over here putting $18 million or $1 billion away because he knows he's gonna die soon. Antifa, literally preparing for war, and ISIS giving advanced knowledge of a new 9/11. So we have a lot of different things happening. They are trying to collapse the country. You see, while all this information is coming out, and that's what you got to think about right before, just like whenever they tell you say your prayers right before they kill you. All of the wickedness, all the evil, all the darkness is being exposed by the light. These people, they can no longer hide their wickedness. They can no longer hide it, and now it's affecting the entire country. The entire world can see us losing our stuff, losing our mind. And this is what's happening because Babylon is falling. But we're going to come back and we're going to be talking about this destabilization, what they're trying to do, how they're trying to push us into a crazy conflict. But like I said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we be back, we're going to talk about some more. This is Freedom Faction of Factions of Freedom. You guys stay tuned. And we're back from outer space. I just walked and found you here with that sad look upon your face. And we are back. You know what? I don't really think I touched on this enough. Before I get into the George Soros stuff, because I definitely will. The George Soros stuff, the destabilization, and this coming civil chaos that I really can't see us avoiding. You know, either foreign or domestic. We're in the mix. I really don't think I addressed like how crazy it really is to be covering like all these exposés of Hillary Clinton and this pedogate stuff. Like there is some really sick stuff going on here. Like it's not a joke whenever you literally have the mayor of Seattle like stepping down because he's over here diddling children. It's not a joke whenever you're talking about every other week. It feels like I expect to have like some kind of information about pedophiles being busted. When you're talking about like organized pedophilia, whenever you're talking about these people literally participating in child sacrifice, ritualistic murder. Okay, go back, and I might need to do like a separate blog or information, something about this, but we need to really like revisit Ted Gunderson's work. This is crazy because we're seeing it all come to light. These people, they are practicing witchcraft, they're practicing wicked stuff. They need the blood of the innocent, they need the blood of the child. They need fresh, pure blood. Innocent blood. This is why, like I said, 800,000 children going missing a year. Every 40 seconds, a child going missing. Because a lot of these people are complicit in it. Like I said, with the dark web pedophile network, them taking part in for a year, watching and monitoring people. You see. And actually encouraging some of them to participate in sexual actions with children. That's crazy. And at the same time, while all this child sex trafficking is taking place, this information is coming out. 84 children were rescued in a nationwide FBI sex trafficking investigation. That's what I was playing for you guys. Operation Cross Country. They actually had police officers that were involved. And that's how this works. I mean, we've covered, how priests have given names of people that have been victims, that have taken part in this wicked debauchery. So I just had to, I had to cover that. I really had to reiterate that one more time. These people, they are sick. They're sick in the head. And if you don't think that they'll practice in child sex trafficking, human trafficking, prostitution, what is slavery? Okay? That's why this is so bad. I don't think I stressed that enough. I might have to do a subsequent broadcast on that to stress this fact. But let's get into George Soros' decrepit self, because he's making headlines. But why is this important? Why are we hearing about this now? Why are we hearing that he's transferring $18 billion to his Open Society Foundation? Whenever we heard that Hillary Clinton funneled $1 million of her campaign funds to Antifa, we actually have that article on our website. I'll try to put the link in the description bar for you guys. But why is George Soros transferring $18 billion to his Open Society Foundation? It's because, as we've heard with Antifa, they're planning for a November 4th overthrow of the government, right? And we'll get into other things as well with future plans and our military, our government, and everything else with this new 9/11 situation, ISIS and Al Qaeda. But if 9/11 was an inside job and ISIS was started by Obama and the Clintons, are they going to just collapse the country themselves? But let's get in this article. I put it up October 17th. It's from the Daily Sheeple, who's reposting it from the Daily Caller. It says, left-wing financier George Soros has transferred $18 billion to the Open Society Foundations, the network of nonprofits Soros uses to advance his left-wing ideology both in the United States and around the world. Yeah, he's basically a terrorist. This dude's like a James Bond villain. This dude's like all over the place, literally collapsing like economies with his money. I'm over here talking about how we're if you double this number, he just gave disaster aid to America. He's only transferring half of that. Half of that disaster aid is going to the destruction of America, who is being, I'll get into this. The massive transfer, which was the first reported by the Wall Street Journal, is roughly equivalent to the gross domestic product of Afghanistan. Crazy. According to the World Bank data, Grover Nurquist, president of Americans for Tax Reform, suggested that the transfer is a way for the 87-year-old Soros to avoid the estate tax, also known as the death tax, which penalizes large inheritances. Inside Philanthropy reported last year that Soros, who has said that he considers himself to be, quote, some kind of god, began laying the groundwork for the foundation to continue his mission after he dies. Did you hear that? Laying the foundation to advance progressive open border policies after he dies. This is the cover for it, right? We know he funds Indivisible. We know he covers Antifa. We know he covers Black Lives Matter. We don't know who else he's covering. I mean, look at all those riots that took place in Paris. They got a 2-year state of emergency because of it. So why are we hearing about him transferring money? This is because he's trying to basically give a boost to his people, to his legacy. This is why we're hearing about Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama staying behind, being a part of this weird shadow network that's a part of the destabilization, trying to take down America, trying to take down what's very little freedoms we have these days. They're going to use these ideological idiots, really, because these people don't represent freedom. They're not trying to be conscious. They're not trying to be awoke or awoken to all of the stuff that we see taking place. They're literally just trying to cause chaos. But they've reached a threat level now. They're getting training. They're becoming active. They're meeting up with people. They're coordinating. They're not just purchasing stickman costumes. They're not just LARPing. They're actually like training to take out people. Not only are they trying to take out people, but other groups who are training them are using them as useful idiots to go take out other people. What happened to Steve Scalise, the senator that was shot? And I talked about this in the episode with End Time Signs. You know, and this will be a good way for me to bridge into, I'll come back to you, George Soros. This will be a good way for us to bridge into the Las Vegas shooting and the destabilization that's all causing. But I talked about this in the episode with David from End Time Signs. You know, what we're looking at is what I feel like what we're looking at to a degree is people who are activated. Russ Dizdar talks about this in his book, The Black Awakening, how there's people that are satanic super soldiers, sleeping satanic super soldiers who can be activated. When they're activated, when they're triggered, there's going to be mass death. They're going to be just taken over, like Kathy Bryan said. These MK Ultra slaves, these mind slaves, they're going to be activated, and they're just going to carry out these crazy deeds. We're not going to know. We're not going to know the deeds. We're not going to know the motives. They're just going to be doing crazy stuff because they've been programmed. You see, if you ask me, the Las Vegas shooting is nothing more than a psychological operation intended to distract, disinform, and confuse the public while they can prepare for this November 4th event. I don't know what it is. I'm not trying to build up hype, but it seems like they're actually trying to take it very serious. George Soros is donating $18 billion. And on top of that, we're hearing how ISIS and Al-Qaeda are planning for a new 9/11. Because yes, there are still bombings. Yes, there are still attacks. Yes, there are still things taking place. Let's see if we can look into that with the time that we have right here. DHS secretary just warned of severe threat of new 9/11 style attack by ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And this is what I was saying, you know, if 9/11 was an inside job and we know ISIS and Al-Qaeda were funded by us, what is that going to do? So let's look into this article. I put it up October 19th. It's from the Free Thought Project by Matt Augerist. It says, Acting Secretary of Homeland Security Elaine Duke has warned that Al-Qaeda and ISIS are planning a big attack just like they did on 9/11. Islamic State and Al-Qaeda terrorists are plotting to take down a plane and carry out a devastating explosion on the same scale of 9/11, according to the United States Security Chief. Quote, the terrorist organizations, be it ISIS or Al-Qaeda or others, want to have the big explosion like they did on 9/11. They want to take down an aircraft. The intelligence is clear on that. The acting U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security, Elaine Dukes, said during a visit to the UK, as cited by the Telegraph. The attack on September 11, 2001, was the deadliest attack in U.S. history and has been surrounded by controversy since, which makes this tying it in with this warning of new attacks particularly worrisome. Quote, the threat is still severe, said Duke on Wednesday in London, following her meeting with Secretary Amber Rudd, where the officials discussed content online. You see, according to Duke, the terrorists are just using these recent smaller attacks to keep their members engaged. And that's what I'm trying to say. These smaller attacks triggering people, activating sleeper cells. We don't know where they're from. We've been infiltrated. Not only do we have to worry about Antifa and all of their shenanigans, we also have to worry about these infiltrated people who are conducting these types of things. I talked about it before. You know, what does a civil war look like? What does a domestic altercation look like? Who's a real domestic terrorist? Is it your neighbor? Is it the person that you go to every day? Is it that bag clerk at the store? Is it your barista? Is it the person who knows your neighborhood better than you? What does a domestic terrorist look like? How did they get these people onto the plane? They just had people that looked like they were insiders. And this is some of the information that's coming out in relation to the Las Vegas shooting as well. They looked like insiders. They were wearing yellow jackets. They had the gear on. They didn't stand out. They blended in. We've been infiltrated. These smaller attacks, these bombings, these stabbings, these shootings, these beheadings that they're not putting on the news, they are still happening. And we're being politically correct. You know, we're being mind jabbed into this politically correct behavior to where we don't really see how real the threat is. But they want to try to take our guns away. You see. Like, let me continue on with this article, and then we'll get into some other stuff and close out the show for you guys. In the interim, they need to keep their finances flowing, and they need to keep their visibility high, and they need to keep their members engaged. So they are using small plots, and they are happy to have small plots. Duke warned at the same time, however, small plots can be followed with major ones. Creating terror is their goal. A bladed weapon attack causes terror and continues to disrupt the world, but that does not mean they have given up a major aviation plot, she said. And that's what I'm trying to talk about. They are doing incremental things to condition us, to get us into this mindset. It's not only paranoia. They're not trying to have us kill each other, but they are also allowing for these terrorists, these radicalists, these mind control slaves, these extremists, these people come in and kill us. It's a slow program. So we can either be victims or we can be victors. Let me continue on with this. It says, what makes this particularly ominous is that, according to reports, just one day before the U.S. security chief's warning, Andrew Parker, Director General of MI5, Britain's domestic intelligence agency, said that Britain was under unprecedented threat from Islamist terrorists. And we've had people on the show, we've gone on to other shows to talk about that as well. You know, attacks on London with David Main. You know, London is falling. We've covered some of that. And these things are still happening. It's not racist to talk about this. We're being attacked. But what has happened in response to this? What happens whenever we're attacked? Things like the U.S. Liberty Act, more militarized police. This is their response to the terror. Puerto Rico having people that are basically wearing masks, patrolling their streets. You have no idea who these people are. And now we have the government trying to allow for more warrantless searches to sneak up in people's houses. But we're not going to pay attention, and I'll tell you why. Because we're paying attention to this Harvey Weinstein situation. Yeah, we know this pedogay stuff is real. Don't get me wrong. Oh, don't get me wrong. These people, they practice witchcraft, they practice Luciferian magic, they sacrifice children. They want our light. But amidst all this chaos, their response is to slide these things out. Give us or try to authorize warrantless searches. This is how these people act. This is what they do. They say, look at this with their left hand, and then they jab you with the right. And it sounds crazy. But like I've been saying, it's what comes after all this chaos, what comes after in the ashes, that's important. They don't talk about how the police basically got more militarized gear during these hurricanes, during hurricane season. They don't talk about that. Or how they're now able to do warrantless searches, I think it's Washington, D.C. and Virginia. And clearly they were able to do it beforehand, but now they literally have the legal and lawful right to. That's the problem. And now you have California allowing drones. They are trying to, this is Americorp, they are trying to watch their chattel and pick off the sheep. The Harvey Weinstein fiasco, we're just like with the Las Vegas shooting, we're only paying attention to one patsy when there's multiple patsies. Harvey Weinstein, like I said, he is a window into how these people operate. Let's see if we could play that clip for you guys. Let's see if we can try to get that clip up where he's talking to somebody in that hallway. Could you imagine seeing that kind of altercation go on in the hallway? Some dude saying, you know, don't embarrass me here. I'm here all the time. Oh, she's like, oh, you grabbed my breast. He's like, I'm used to this. Sorry. And this is how these people operate. They don't have respect for life. They don't have respect for freedom, individuality. They are egomaniacs, megalomaniacs, psychopaths.
I'm not doing anything with you. Now you're embarrassing me.
I'm sorry. I cannot. No, yesterday was a kind of aggressive for me. I need to know a person to be touched.
I won't do a thing.
I don't.
with me, please. I swear I won't. Just sit with me. Don't embarrass me in the hotel. I'm here all the time. Sit with me, I promise.
Don't want to.
Please sit there. Please. 1 minute.
No,
I ask
can't.
you. Go to the bathroom.
Please, I don't want to do something I don't want
Go
to.
to the bathroom. Hey, come here. Listen to me.
I want to go downstairs.
I'm not going to do anything. You'll never see me again after this. Okay? That's it. If you embarrass me in this hotel,
I'm not embarrassing you. It's just
walk.
that I don't feel comfortable.
Honey, don't have a fight with me in the
It's not
hallway.
nice.
Please, I'm not going to do anything. I swear, my children. Please come in. On everything. I'm a famous guy.
I'm feeling very uncomfortable right
Please
now.
come in now. And 1 minute. And if you want to leave, when the guy comes with my
Why
jacket, you can
yesterday
go.
you touched my breast?
Oh, please, I'm sorry. Just come on. I'm used to that. Come on.
Are you used to that?
Yes, come in. Because
No, but I'm not used to that.
I'm used to that.
I'm not doing anything.
That's what she says, or that's what he says, because these people are creeps. You know. Don't get me wrong. I love beautiful women, but yo, man, if you're a predator, hey, man, she's obviously saying no, back off, and you're just over here pressing, super pressing. So one thing I want to get into, and then I'll close this out for you guys, and I'll wrap the show up for you, is Jesus Campos. After he disappeared, apparently he checked into the same hotel that Kanye West checked into, right? He disappears, pops up a few days later after missing a show on Anderson Cooper, pops up over here on what? Ellen DeGeneres' show? Clearly he goes, or the mainstream media, and I don't even think this is the real Jesus Campos. I think this is a body double, that they're trying to pull off. You can, Face ID shows that this isn't the same person, but we could be wrong. My point is this: they coached this man. They made sure he got his stories on point. They made sure he had his information on point. They did not want to leave anything to chance, because they know the world is looking, or at least the country is looking at this whole debacle, this whole psyop. You see, that's why they're drip feeding us information. They're trying to lead us on until October 4th, or until November 4th, to where something big is going on. So let's listen to this Jesus Campos, this hero security guard, real quick.
And at that time, I heard what I assumed it was drilling sounds, and I believed that they were in the area working somehow.
You thought the drilling, they were gunshots, but you thought it was just drilling sounds.
At first, I think it was just drilling sounds.
Right. So then, at what point did you get shot? What happens here?
As that door's closing and it's so heavy, it'll slam. I'm walking down this way, and I believe that's what caught the shooter's attention. As I was walking down, I heard rapid fire, and at first I took cover. I felt a burning sensation. I went to go lift my pant leg up, and I saw the blood. That's when I called it in on my radio that shots have been fired, and I was gonna say that I was hit, but I got all over myself.
Okay.
And at that time,
Shots
I heard,
fired. Shots fired. Yeah, man, this is all one big political theatrical joke. Okay, hearing him talk, you can tell it's coached. Hearing him talk, you can tell he's like trying to recite a statement. This is all something crazy. This is Babylon Americorp. This is all one big show to these people, and it's sick, if you ask me. However, that's all I really have for you guys. I know I jumped over a lot of different stuff. It's like 3 different categories of stuff that's going on right now. There's stuff going on in California, this Las Vegas shooting, and all the other information that's coming out on Hollywood. Things are crazy these days. I didn't even get into the Russian nuclear situation with Hillary Clinton. But this is what's happening in America, guys. We are all over the place, and if you ask me, as I said before at the start of the show, America is going through its own form of judgment. But that's all I really have for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll have it in the description bar below. And if you want more, think about becoming a Patreon subscriber, okay? Any kind of support helps us. Or if you just want to donate $1 here or $1 there, it really helps us continue what we're doing. Helps us fight censorship, make awesome content, and keep taking it to them. But that's it, guys. And remember, stay vigilant, expose lies, and share truth. This is Noise Era, Freedom Faction, Out.